Hi, I'm Morgan Gold, and welcome to this masterclass talking about livestock guardian dogs. I'm really excited to spend some time with you guys today and talk about livestock guardian dogs and why I think they're such an important resource for farms and homesteads. I'll be giving you an overview of the different types of livestock guardian dogs that are here, and we're going to dive deep in terms of thinking about how to train and get your livestock guardian dog ready to be the protector for your farm. And the ultimate goal here is that by the end of this session, you're going to have the ability to know if livestock guardian dogs are right for you and your homestead, as well as have a sense of the next steps you should tackle if you want to bring a dog onto your place. So let's get into it. Dogs and humans are two animals that have co-evolved together for at least the past 20,000 years. And when you look at the different roles that people have with canines, it's a very diverse spread. You have things like, people who use dogs for hunting. You have people who use dogs for companions. You have people who use dogs for pest control with things like rats. And then one of the most important and earliest uses, particularly after the emergence of human agriculture, has been in using your dogs as a way to protect your livestock. For thousands of years, there have been old breeds of dogs that were raised with specific types of animals, bonded to specific types of animals, and they learned very specific behaviors that really help them protect animals that are under the watch of the farmer. And when you think about the role of those dogs and what they're doing, in some instances back in the day, they would be fighting off a cougar or a bear or a wolf. But the other thing that they're essentially doing, and this is something that carries forward to modern agriculture today, is they're playing the role of the apex predator in that ecosystem. By the human providing the resources the dog needs to survive, whether it be shelter, protection, companionship, food, that dog is staying in place with that human and saying to all the other critters out there in the wild, hey, this here is my farm and these here are my animals. I think for farmers and homesteaders, it's really important for you to think about your job, not so much about just raising one type of animal or providing food for your family. When it comes down to it, you're essentially an ecosystem manager. And much like you might use a barn cat to help control rats that are bothering your poultry because you feed your poultry some grain, you're using that dog to scare away a lot of those other creatures. And for me, that's actually why I see livestock guardian dogs as one of the most effective ways to control your predators. If you look at agriculture in the United States over, say, the last 200 years, over the first, I'd say 170 or so, there was a heavy focus on eradication. And, that's where you see things like, the elimination of wolves, say, from the East Coast. But then when you start to see what happened as a result of that, by eliminating the wolf, other animals popped up. And now, say, for example, like where our farm is here in Vermont, we used to have wolves here. We haven't had wolves here for quite some time. But what has emerged as an animal that's filled the niche of that ecosystem has been the coyote. So eradication predator controls can sometimes be not as effective. Yes, sometimes you might need to dispatch a raccoon that's living in your barn. But overall, the more effective way to more permanently manage those predators that are around your animals is to use something like a livestock guardian dog. But now you might be saying, well, what exactly is a livestock guardian dog? What breeds are considered livestock guardian dogs? And the reality is there's like more than 50 actual recognized breeds of livestock guardian dogs. And then you're going to find various crossbreeds as well as other unrecognized breeds that are out there as well. But let me give you a quick rundown of some of the major ones. Probably the most popular breed of livestock guardian dog in the United States is the Great Pyrenees. They're those big, large, white, fluffy dogs who originated from the Pyrenees Mountains in Spain and France. The Great Pyrenees is a big, strong protector. It's a really useful, reliable dog. A lot of times, though, in the United States, they've been sometimes bred for being pets more so than working farm dogs. And so as you're looking at potential breeds, recognize you need to think about what's the roots of the dog that you're actually getting. Oftentimes it's not good enough that they're of that breed. You want to really look more at what the parents are actually doing and the types of lives their parents are actually leading, because that's going to be an indicator for your dog in general. But that also is very, very true for the Great Pyrenees, which breeding practices over the last 25, 30 years have played a role in sort of shifting the major characteristics of that breed. Most Great Pyrenees will, though, live outside with their animals. They'll do a great job protecting them. They have a very thick, weather-resistant coat, and that makes them durable for a wide variety of climates. Second, and probably nearest and dearest to my heart, because it's what we have at our farm, are the Maremas, or Maremma abruzzese. The Maremma is actually very similar to the Great Pyrenees. People will often see pictures or videos of our dogs and think that they're Great Pyrenees, but the reality of it all is our dogs are Maremmas, and so the Maremma comes from Italy. So much like you have the Pyrenees coming from, like, say, France, they're relatively close cousins, and they fall into this general category of dog I like to call the large white farm dog of Europe, where, you know, whether it's the Great Pyrenees, a Maremma, or an Akbash, they're all relatively related, but they have their own characteristics. The characteristics of the Maremma that I absolutely love are the fact that they are a little bit smaller than the Great Pyrenees, and they're a little bit calmer, they're a little bit less likely to roam, and most importantly for me, they're a bit calmer when it comes to being around poultry. Next out there, and also very popular, are the Anatolian Shepherds. Anatolian Shepherds are from Turkey. They're large, strong, independent dogs. They have a shorter coat when compared to the Great Pyrenees or the Maremma. They are suited for a wide variety of climates, though, and so they can match up pretty well with where you're at. You just need to recognize what's your situation, what's your context, where they work best. Also hailing from Turkey, you have the Akbash, which looks a lot more like the Maremma or the Great Pyrenees in those large, fluffy, white guard dog varieties. You know, if you look at the Turkish language, Ak actually stands for white, and then Bas means head, so it's Akbash is how you get these big white-headed dogs. You know, the Akbash are great for large open territories and patrolling in that way, and they're a wonderful, reliable companion. Also in the same category of the Akbash, the Great Pyrenees, the Maremma, is the Kuvas. The Kuvas is kind of like in that same realm of dog. They are actually more of the Hungarian variety. But very useful and very common, actually, particularly here in North America, and especially we find a lot of them up in Quebec, in my area. One of maybe the most fearsome protectors out there is the Kangal. The Kangal is a Turkish variety of dog. One of the things they're most noted for is the absolute power and strength of their bite. They were used for protection against some really heavy-duty predators such as wolves and bears, and they are a fearsome, fearsome dog. Sometimes, though, they might be a little bit too high-strung for your typical homestead and farm, and so a lot of this comes down to thinking about what are your needs for the farm and homestead, and how do these different varieties match up. Like I said earlier, there's more than 50 breeds of livestock guardian dog, and so as you're thinking about whether or not it's right for you, don't just rely on the handful I call out here. There's a lot of research you might want to do, and go out there and really see these dogs in action. I think so often, whether it's chicken breeds or dog breeds or cattle breeds, what you're going to find is people will get very fixated on the different type of breed off of something that they read in a book or see in a masterclass, when the reality of it all is what you want to be focused on is finding what opportunities are available for you to have the right type of breed coming from the right type of situation and farm to match what you're going to need it to do in your place. I think too often people get caught up on thinking about what they've read in that book and idealizing what they need versus looking out there and going to farms and seeing these livestock guardian dogs in action. I think that is maybe one of the most important things you can do to make sure you have a good fit of just the right type of livestock guardian dog on your farm.